Well, we are wrapping up the year of 2023, and it has been quite the year for the cruise industry, and 2024 is looking even better. So today we're going to be diving in for all of the brand new ships that we're going to be arriving in the year of 2024. So let's dive right in and take a look. What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon. If you like cruise news, cruise vlogs, and ship tours, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell to be notified every time we upload a new video. We also have a new podcast that we just started up on the channel that is every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can also find that podcast on Spotify as well. Anyways, let's dive right into today's video. So like I said, 2023 was a great year. We saw several brand new ships, including one that still hasn't come out, Carnival Jubilee, which we will go ahead and just add her to this list because she's coming out in one of the final weeks of 2023. Her very first sailing, her maiden voyage, is pretty much a New Year's cruise starting in December and ending in January. Carnival Jubilee is the third and final ship in the XL class from Carnival Cruise Line. She just completed her sea trials just a few days ago and is pretty much ready to be delivered and handed over to Carnival Cruise Line to begin her sailings out of Galveston, Texas. She's identical pretty much to her sisters Mardi Gras and Celebration at about 180,000 tons. She features the roller coaster, just like her sisters, a water park, and lots more. She'll be sailing 7-night itineraries from Galveston, Texas, visiting the Western Caribbean. Of course, with Galveston, they don't typically sail over to the Eastern Caribbean or the Bahamas unless they're much longer sailings. So she is primarily going to stick to Western Caribbean, visiting ports like Mahogany Bay, Honduras, Cozumel, Mexico, Costa Maya. She's pretty much done, handed over, or getting ready to be handed over to Carnival Cruise Line to begin those sailings as the newest ship in the Carnival fleet. Skipping over to another one we have coming out very soon, it is the Sun Princess, an all-new class of ship that we have here coming from Princess Cruises. She's going to be the largest ship in the fleet at 175,000 tons, so not quite the size of Mardi Gras or the XL class from Carnival, but very, very close. Only a difference of about 5,000 tons. She does have a guest capacity of about 4,300 and a crew capacity of about 1,550. She's due in February of 2024. She's currently being built in the Fincantieri shipyard over in Italy. And this is considered the Sphere class, which is interesting because her name is the Sun. Usually the class is named after the first ship in the fleet. Usually they're named after the first ship in the class. So I would imagine this would have been a Sun class, but from what I'm reading here, it does say that she's a Sphere class. One of the really neat features that this ship has is that it features a large dome at the very front of the ship, similar to one of the big boys we're going to get to later on in the video, as we are saving the first and second largest ships in the world for later on in this video. They're going to be the last ones. We're going to end this one with a bang. But she features a very large dome with a huge relaxation area. It's also just a big entertainment venue as well. So it's really, really cool. And there's going to be shows there at night, which is awesome. There's also a first for Princess Cruises. There is going to be a ropes course in like a big, what they call adventure park, or Park 19 Adventure Park, which is it features a first at sea roll glider, which if you can see by this image here, seems very interesting. Pretty much you're going to be harnessed up and holding onto basically a bar, and it's going to roll you across this little track that's around the funnel of the ship. Very interesting. Again, it's a first at sea. Looks pretty cool, honestly. Looks really fun. And then, of course, you've also got the ropes course. That's a first for Princess Cruises. Princess ships in the past haven't really had a whole lot when it comes to physical activities. Usually they're just bare bones. They're more traditional style cruising, and of course that's what people like Princess for. So it is interesting to see that they're kind of taking a more adrenaline-packed and more just action-packed take on some of their new ships here. And of course you get the jogging track that you can also see in this photo here, but that's kind of normal. Most ships these days do have jogging tracks on them. So it looks like to be a very, very fun and action-packed pool deck and activity deck here on board the Sun Princess. Next up on the list, we have a huge one here. When I say huge, it's a big deal because this is the first time in I believe about 13 years, if I'm not mistaken, that we're getting a brand new ship for Cunard Line. We're getting the Queen Anne. She's going to be similar to the Holland America ships Koningsdam, New Statendam, and the new Rotterdam. That's the same class basically, so if you're looking for a reference of what the ship is comparing to, of course, she's the only one from Cunard that's in that class, but there are ships with Holland America that are in this class. She's going to be sitting at about 113,000 tons, so she's still about a medium-sized ship, about 3,000 passengers, crew capacity of 1225, and she is due out in May of 2024, also being built in the Fincantieri shipyard, just like Sun Princess that we just finished up talking about. Of course, Cunard is a huge luxurious cruise line, so there's not a whole lot to be expecting here as far as action adventure, things like that. It's extremely traditional cruising and luxury cruising at its absolute finest. But of course, lots of dining options, even a couple pools on board, which is kind of standard. When it comes to really crazy, features on board, Cunard is probably one of the last cruise lines to ever put something crazy on a ship, just because that's not what they're all about. Nothing against them, that's just not what they do. So we're going to skip down to Mein Schiff 7. Of course, we can see Mein Schiff 6 here in this video that I'm showing, because that's basically the same thing. The Mein Schiff ships, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, great names, but they're all been coming out over the last couple of years, and then now we have 7 coming out next year in 2024 in the month of June. Nothing too crazy. Again, just like all of her sisters, 1 through 6, 111,000 tons, guest capacity of about 2,894, just about 1,000 crew members, and she's being built in Meyer Werft in Papenburg, which is where they actually just finished building the Jubilee. So the next one out of that shipyard is Mein Schiff 7. And then here we have next up on the list, also coming from the same shipyard. Luckily, Mein Schiff 7 is a pretty small ship, so it gives plenty of room for our next ship, which is the Disney Treasure. Disney Treasure is due out in December of 2024, so still a long way to go with her. She hasn't even really been that far along. She's still in her mega block phase, which is the giant blocks that they build together. They are going to start pulling them all together probably by the end of this year, now that Jubilee is out, and getting her ready to go for her December debut in 2024. Disney Treasure is going to be identical in a sister ship to the Disney Wish in the Triton class. She's the second of 3. They're sitting at about 144,000 tons, 4,000 passengers, and about 1,500 crew members. She's going to feature all sorts of new dining options and things like that. I did do a full video on Disney Treasure. I will have it listed at the end of this video in one of the end cards if you want to go check that out for a little bit more in-depth look at Disney Treasure. Another plus side to the arrival of Disney Treasure is that they are also going to be opening up a brand new island, Lighthouse Point, which is basically a secondary island to Castaway Cay, which came out, of course, or which was finished back in the late 90s whenever Disney Cruise Line first started up. So we're going to have 2 private islands for Disney Cruise Line at the end of 2024 with the arrival of Disney Treasure. Disney Treasure is going to sail 7-night itineraries, replacing the Disney Fantasy that's currently in Port Canaveral. She's going to be sailing 7-night cruises from Port Canaveral, doing Eastern and Western Caribbean cruises, also going to Lighthouse Point. All right, and then, of course, finally, we have what will soon be the second world's largest cruise ship and the very first Oasis class to be powered by liquefied natural gas, but the very first Oasis class ship to not debut as the world's largest cruise ship. It's kind of hard to believe that that's actually happening. The Oasis class changed the game for the cruise industry, and even still to this day is unrivaled to anything else in the industry. The Oasis class has been an absolute marvel ever since they debuted back in 2009, and even to this day, again, nothing just comes close. I just recently sailed on Allure of the Seas, which is still in her original state that she was in basically back in 2010 when she debuted. There's just no comparison to anything else in the industry. And of course, her newer sister ships and even Oasis that was recently redone is just even better. But Utopia of the Seas is going to be the 6th and final Oasis class ship. But Utopia of the Seas is the 6th and final Oasis class ship from Royal Caribbean. She's going to be sitting at 236,000 tons, making her the largest of the Oasis class. Each of the 6 Oasis class get a little bit larger than the last, mostly as a marketing standpoint for as the world's largest cruise ship. And of course, just to kind of take that title from themselves each time. even though with this case, they're not going to be taking that title, as Icon, who is next up on our list, will be holding that title by a long shot. About 5,600 guest capacity. That's going to be a little bit higher, closer to 7,000 at double occupancy. About 2,300 crew members, and she is debuting in July of 2024. I will also be sailing on her in August of 2024. So I will have plenty of content for her when she debuts. She's being built in the STX shipyard like her sisters Harmony, Symphony, Wonder, and now Utopia were all built. The originals Oasis and Allure were built in Meyer Turku back in 2009 and 2010. That's where the Icon is being built right now as well. And like I mentioned, he's going to be the final of the Oasis class. If they build more, that's going to be a little crazy to have more than 6 of these. The fact that we have 6 of these Oasis class in general is just kind of mind-boggling because of how big they are. But Utopia of the Seas is going to be sailing the 3- and 4-night short Bahamas cruises, which is a complete shock to the industry, as usually the 3- and 4-night Bahamas cruises were usually saved for the older ships, smaller ships, but over the last few years, that is a market that has absolutely boomed for the Florida market, for the Florida cruise market. But she is going to be sailing straight out of the shipyard on 3- and 4-night Bahama cruises. And like I said, I will be on one of her first few sailings in August of 2024. And of course, now moving on to our final ship, and the most exciting ship, and the largest ship in the world, Icon of the Seas, will be debuting January of 2024 as the new world's largest cruise ship. The only thing that's ever been able to rival the Oasis class from Royal Caribbean comes straight from Royal Caribbean themselves, just outdoing themselves now. The Icon of the Seas is something of its own. It's truly one of the craziest things ever built by humans. It's unbelievable how large this thing is, just how much there is to do, what they've done with it. The ship stands at about 250,000 tons, which is, again, Utopia is the second largest, and we're looking at about a 14,000 ton difference, which is pretty significant. She's going to have a guest capacity of about 5,600, and then double occupancy is going to be a little bit higher, probably around 7,000 to 7,500 guests. A crew capacity of about 2,400. And again, she's due out in January of 2024. I will also be sailing on one of her first sailings too. I will be on the 4th ever sailing in February of 2024. So if you want Icon of the Seas content, you're in the right place because you're going to have a lot of it coming very soon when she comes out. 20 passenger decks, an entire water park featuring 6 massive water slides, not just water slides, but huge ones, raft slides. It's a legitimate water park that you would almost compare to what you see in Coco Cay. It's really a spectacle to behold. Like, the thing is incredible. The fact that they were able to do that. They also have the Aqua Dome, which is basically a spin on the Aqua Theater, except it's all the way in the very front of the ship, and even larger, which is crazy to think about because it's an enclosed dome, but it's larger than the Aqua Theater that we see on the Oasis class. They do the same thing like they did with the Aqua Theater, but with a different twist. Now that it's enclosed, there's also going to be like the LED screens that we see with 270 on the Quantum class ships, mixed with the diving and the water shows that we see on the Oasis class. So really tying it in full circle, combining those two classes and everything that's great about those two classes into one. The ship is going to feature an all-new promenade, also a whole new boardwalk style area called Surfside. It's a whole new spin onto the boardwalk neighborhood that we see on the Oasis class, and of course now called Surfside. And then we also have, of course, a new and modernized version of the Central Park area as well, still called Central Park, but it's definitely much different, just a completely different variant of that, since of course this is a brand new class of ship. So like I mentioned, she's due out in January of 2024, and she's being currently built in the Meyer Turku, Finland shipyard, where the original Oasis and Allure were first built about 12 and 13 years ago. So that's going to be all for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. It was very fun to look at all these new ships that are coming next year in 2024, and even more coming in 2025, including a sister ship to the Icon of the Seas, Star of the Seas. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Which ship are you most excited for? Thank you again so much for watching. Tune into our podcast because we are going to be doing a deep dive into all of these brand new ships in one of our upcoming episodes in the next week. Make sure you subscribe down below for all the upcoming content as well. We have Allure of the Seas cruise vlogs that are still on their way out and just starting up over the next couple of days and weeks. And with that, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.